Podcast. We are back at it, man. This is our sixth episode.
Half a year.
Half a year, man. It's crazy that we kind of came up with this idea last year. I want to say like October, November. Came together, put our minds together, and made it happen.
I think we just said let's fire the first one up in January.
Yep.
And did it in January.
What made you guys want to start?
That's a good question, man.
I think we started mostly for a couple. I think the main reason was just the ability to kind of have long form discussions and then chop those up into different clips and stuff, because it's really a good opportunity to talk about business and everything, and you just kind of get into different topics, and then once I kind of go through and after I post it, I'll just go through and chop up different clips of things we talk about.
Okay.
It's good for like if he talks about something in regards to inspections, maybe there's a little tidbit there. Sometimes we'll even share like if there's something, good spiel for you, post it, tag you in it, so it just all gets circulating around and everything.
Cool. Sure.
It's just a really efficient way, because we can sit here and talk for an hour to two and have a lot of content really in that amount of time and just kind of check a lot of boxes and everything. So.
That's cool. That's
and
good.
I've said it a couple times, I don't look at how many people watch it. I think that'd be too distracting.
Yeah.
So for all I know, it might just be like our moms and grandmas out there watching. But that's okay. I think consistency is key. So.
Oh, for sure. I respect that.
Yeah. So here we are on number 6.
Number
yeah.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for myself, it's just an outlet. And the reason I say that, obviously, as an inspector, I won't say we're put in this box, but there's certain things you can't say or do when you at an inspection, right? You have to hold yourself to the highest professional standards, not just in real estate, but just in any field. So you don't really never have that outlet piece to be able to go somewhere, maybe talk a little bit of shit or talk a little raunchy, and not really allow it to mess with your brand. And that's kind of what Under the Rug Podcast do for me, and everything like that. So speaking of Under the Rug Podcast, we got our special guest here, a good friend, Josh of Transnation Title Agency. We actually met, that was back in March. And then since then, we kind of felt like we've known each other longer than for the past 2 or 3 months and everything like that, man. So welcome to the show, man. You mind just introducing yourself to the viewers and telling everybody a little bit more about yourself?
So yeah, Josh Pulsifer, Transnation Title, like you said. Been with them a little over 2 years now. Man, what to say? 4 kids, I'm married for 9 years, all boys, so it's a chaotic house. Crazy part is my youngest is turning 5 on Saturday, and I got a 17-year-old that's turning 18 in June, and he's out the house.
Yes, sir.
One's going out of the system, one's going into the system. So it's a blessing. It's all chaotic. It's fun. Well, as far as my job wise, I was in the brick and mortar retail for almost 20 years. Ran a shoe store for about 10, a suit store for 5, Chase Bank, Sheldon Cleaners, and now Transnation, which I can't ask for anything better, man.
That's great.
That's great.
What is that? Go ahead, Corey.
I was just going to say, is your oldest going to school?
Yeah, he's going to culinary school.
No way.
Yeah,
cool.
too.
I figured when he said he's moving out, he must be going to school, or you're probably not kicking him out.
Cool, he's going to a great culinary school in New York, and
New York?
That's what's up,
top in the country, so it's been his passion. So I'm proud of him. Yeah, he had
Is that a 4-year thing?
2 years. Yeah, but it's
smooth.
That's smooth.
Do we cook for you and the family at all at the house?
No,
or?
maybe twice.
No way.
Twice.
Wow, it's gonna have to change after that.
It's funny though, because I actually do all the cooking in our house, so I love cooking.
Yeah,
so
me too.
he's grown up watching me cook the whole time. So
has he worked in any restaurants or done any cooking?
No,
or anything?
he's just going out. He did a little bit at school, and he worked for like a culinary program at school that they did that he was a part of, and he shined out there.
Enjoyed
So
that.
That's what's up, man.
I've done some cooking at restaurants and stuff, and I completely understand. You like short order cook and prep cook and all that. And I kind of liked it. Like the only problem with it, I think, in that industry is that the wages are just tend to be kind of low unless you're like a kitchen manager, and that's kind of low. But if they weren't so low, I would enjoy that kind of work, because it's really. You can kind of just go on autopilot when you're really good at it. Just kind of like anything else, you can kind of go on autopilot and just have your orders come in and just go, and hours go by. Yeah, there's something about that that's kind of cool. I enjoyed some of that.
Well, I told him it's a challenging career. It really is to make it in that career. You got to grind. I'm talking 70, 80-hour weeks.
For sure.
And he's I told them all that. I set them up, and I told them everything. I was honest and brutal, and
probably a lot of networking involved in that. If you
Sure.
want to get to certain places and work for certain people or work in certain places, you kind of got to be.
The cool part about that school too is it's a business school, so he'll get his business degree along with his culinary stuff. So that's the cool part.
I feel like that's a necessity. Yeah, you don't really want to go and do something like that and then come out and work for somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of want to go and do your own thing. I would assume. Try to do something. Maybe do for a little bit. But.
Food truck it up. I think.
Oh wow, man!
Yeah.
You want to stay in New York? You want to bring that back to GR or?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
New York's crazy. See how he feels about it.
It's actually 2 hours north of the main city, so it's not as
okay.
bad. It's right on the Hudson River, like up a little bit, so it's not like the chaotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's fair. That is very different. Yeah, that is very different. Yeah, you never know then.
When you guys mentioned cooking, I remember in high school, my senior year, I worked at Holland Home as a dietary aide. They say dietary aide because we work in the kitchen, but my ass was washing dishes. So actually, I was a dishwasher. And I remember before I left, they asked me to do some cooking shifts on the weekend, but you had to be there at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I did that shit one time. I told them, no, that's not for me. I trained, but yeah, man. But good luck and the best of luck to your son,
yeah,
man, with
that's
everything
cool.
like that. So,
Appreciate it.
What experience at that age too, to just go off and be able
to go to
do
New
that.
York, man.
And it's scary. It is.
A little bit, yeah. That's a good. It's like you said, it's not like he's in the city or anything, so it'd be a little weird, but.
And I want him to. I want him to experience life.
For sure, for sure, and only for 2 years. That's really nice. That 4-year and onward is daunting to think about for that sort of thing.
I know my wife just finished at Davenport for nursing.
Oh no way!
I remember you told me that when we
just graduated.
Congratulations on that, man.
Wow. So that's gonna be. She starts at Mary Free Bed June 20th. So
that's huge, bro.
Oh, it's gonna be.
I feel like that probably they probably have some openings, huh? I guess that's an industry that's hurting for people. So good for her, yeah. Hopefully that works out well. Yeah, definitely.
If you don't mind sharing, Josh, now that you brought that up about your wife graduating, I remember that you mentioned that. And like I said, this show is to really talk about entrepreneurship and the different things that we go through in the growth process. I remember you mentioned some sacrifices that you guys had to make. And I don't want to, get too much in there, but the reason I mention sacrifices because a lot of people want the wins, but they're not willing to do the dirty work as far as the sacrifices and getting there, man.
For sure.
What was the proper sacrifices for you and your wife to get where you are now and to even go where you guys are going, just so people will know that you have to go through that process to make it in life?
So the hardest part, I think, for my wife and I, we're givers. We don't like saying no. Right. So like we love to get the family and friends and whatever we can, and we can never say no. And that is a positive and a negative, but we had to figure out a way to deal with that eternally and with each other because she was gone studying all the time. I was working, and it almost came into a role of me switching to, because she had a career and then she's like, I want to go back to school, and I was like, okay, let's figure this out. Figured out what the budget had to be for her to go back to school with just my income. And I honestly, I'm a religious guy. I attest to the Lord putting things in place that needed to be in place, and just letting him guide our path. And it all worked out, man. And the biggest sacrifice for us is telling people no. We kind of feel bad about it. I want to be able to be there, and we couldn't a lot of things. And then just recently, the last 3 years, with her being in school full time, she's a perfectionist, and it kills her. But she has to get all A's. She has to get 100% on every paper and every test. And I understand that. I'm kind of the same way. I'm driven in that same, mentality of wanting to get good grades and stuff like that. So I totally understand that. And that's why I took on the role of like, look, I can't really do much with my boys anymore. I can't do like my guy friends and stuff. I can't play ball as much as I was. I can't golf as much as I was, stuff like that. So I had to take away a lot of the hobbies and just focus on my family and that at that time. So now in full turn, it's like she's graduated. And trust me, we both sacrificed a lot. She sacrificed her biggest thing now was mom guilt. Because she was like, I feel so bad because when my son asked me, Mom, you want to play with me? She's like, I can't. I gotta go finish my paper. And that killed her inside. It did. Yeah. So now that that's over, it's just like it's a blessing in disguise. But after all that's said and done, it's just like Lord provided through all whatever was going on,
Yeah.
man. The chaotic craziness, 4 kids in and out the house, and
Yeah.
like everything going on in life, man. It's just like we're at a good place, man. It's a peace.
You said that was like 3 years?
3.5 years, man.
3.5, almost 4.
You know? And mind you, at that time when she first started, we just got our first house.
Yes, sir.
We just had a baby.
Yeah.
And I switched jobs, and she's like, I want to go back to school. And I'm like, huh? Excuse me? You know what I mean? So you just got to kind of soak it in. And I'm the type of guy, if this is your goal and this is what you want to do, we're going to make it happen. We're going to do whatever we're going to do. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's what.
She seemed happy with it?
Oh, she loves it. And like, she loves her. She was a military medic for 9 years. So she already had the medical background.
Oh.
She got out of the military and she started working in mental health. So she was Allegan County Mental Health. She worked there for 5 years, and that was going to be her career in mental health. And then she came to me, was like, I'm kind of officey jobby, and she was like, I'm just not happy. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do to fix it? And she's like, I want to go back into nursing. I was like, well, let's make it happen. And it was more her than me, trust me. Like, she's the go-getter out of us, honestly. She keeps me driven. So
That's
that being said, my wife pushes me to the fullest, man, for sure. If it wasn't for her.
Yeah, you wouldn't catch me going to school right now.
No way, man. So,
not a chance.
yeah, she really pushed me in my life because I saw her driving her goal and how goal-oriented she was as my partner. I'm like, I gotta be at least
match that
75% of that. You know what I mean?
Got to.
So that, and then once it became, after a while, it just became a normal habit for me now. I just want to continue that success as a couple, as a partnership.
Definitely. There's gratification in that.
For sure, man. Yeah. So, and it's we're this close away, man.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it's hard work though.
It's
It's definitely hard work.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's like for me growing up, I grew up pretty poor, and it's like for us to have 2 incomes coming into our house in like a month, man.
Yes,
You
sir.
get more money, you know what to do with sometimes.
And it's funny you say that because, like you said about the money or the passion. For me, it's straight passion because I was telling you how I grew up. Like I grew up not knowing what we're gonna eat or where we're gonna stay.
Yes, sir.
And it's like for me to go from that to having a beautiful home and
Stability,
to provide.
yeah.
It's like that money to me now is great, but now I'm getting it in. And I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, okay, like now what are we gonna do? And now I want to do like a mission trip and really make difference. Honey, you're in medical. You can go over there and I can help out whatever you need me to do,
Yes,
and
sir.
then just to help our immediate family, man, because we don't have much support.
It's pretty wild how the difference between just, you have the amount of money to where like if you have a tire blowout, you're worried. And then it seems like it's just a huge leap, but then all of a sudden you can make kind of a small leap and have just a 1,000 or 2 more, and all of a sudden it's like more money than you know what to do with. It's not that far. And a lot of times, like, I've been in the past definitely have felt like it's just insurmountable, but then things start going good and you start making a little more money than you know what to do with, and you're like, is my bank account really, you know what I mean? It's like just such a small step, and then all of a sudden you're just in such a better place, and then if you make good decisions with that, it can just really snowball into something much, much bigger. So it's pretty crazy how that works.
No, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I like the piece you mentioned earlier about the passion over money piece, because we was having a conversation earlier before the show started, and not just family or friends or just the world in general, especially this generation, you hear a lot of people say they want money, but passion, the love for what you do, your drive. I have no issue with getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning doing a home inspection because this is my business. I love to do it. You ask me to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do something else, I'm gonna dread it, right? So that passion piece, bro, I want to touch on that a little bit more, just kind of hear both of you guys' aspect from it, because I don't think that's something that's discussed enough. Everybody talk about the money, but never talk about being able to really do something that fulfills them. Like I said earlier, I know you talked about God, we talked about faith and everything like that. I believe we all here have a purpose, and that passion has to fulfill that purpose to a certain extent. And it's like, unless you find it, you just kind of chasing the dollar the entire time. And now you wonder why you so damn tired when you get home. It's not because you working 8 hours, it's because where you working for 8 hours and what you doing for the 8 hours and different things like that. So I guess I'll ask you first, Corbin, what do you think your more so purpose is, and do you think that's equivalent to your passion?
Yeah, I definitely find, and always have a lot more like meaning in creative endeavors and arts and things like that, which has been difficult for me because those are obviously things where, just like sports, I feel like there's a distribution there where it's like a very, very small percentage of people are really going to make money in that industry, and it's incredibly difficult to actually make anything. So it really has to be something, for the most part, where I feel like you have to treat it like something that's just more of a hobby, you know. So it's always felt to me like everything that I've kind of done, whether it was working in restaurants or whatever, there's certain things I've liked, like I was saying earlier, I like working in restaurants. There were certain parts of working in retail that were good, sometimes. I think a lot of times when I was working with people in those environments, it was the good interactions with people that I really enjoyed, which did kind of seem few and far between. It's not like every interaction was terrible, but like I'm talking genuine interactions, like when you and I met, good energy, you know what I mean? Like those good energy between us, like those sorts of interactions that you just kind of get every now and then that kind of keep you going. I found that I kind of like that, so that's kind of how I ended up getting into like thinking that maybe something more like real estate would be a good idea, building different connections, a little more, what would you call them, intimate in some sense, kind of connections like that, things like that, or just in business in general, just when you're kind of running your own business, I think that's just what you kind of do. So I like that, but outside of that, everything else to me kind of it's always been a struggle of mine. Everything is work, and it becomes work. The longer I do it, the more it kind of gets a little bit stagnant, so I have to mix it up a lot, because it all just kind of feels like a means to an end, because I'm really after, like, my perfect life would be to just have that income come in and just work on creative, not worried about the money that it's making. Maybe eventually it does because of the consistency, and you just work at something, you get better at it, but that's just not something that you can necessarily, because it takes time, you can't sit there and necessarily go, I think I'm just gonna make music for a living. It's like, you can try. You can try, but so and that's where a lot of my passions lie, is in that. I do also like sharing information with people, teaching people, connecting with people, that sort of thing. But and there's some things that we've kind of gotten into talking about, doing presentations and things like that, where we could kind of maybe make that kind of a passion business project, that sort of thing. So, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I definitely, my drive is towards passion, but it's all kind of, all the things I do for work and everything like that, it's just kind of trying to get to a point where I can do that, maybe have investments or things like that that'll pay for me to, spend my time doing things I enjoy a lot.
And don't get it wrong, like, you can have the passion for stuff and still want to make money.
Right.
It's okay to make money. You know what I'm saying? It's 100% okay to tell yourself, like, okay, I want to make money, but I still want to be passionate about what I do. I know there's a line there, but it's still okay to want to make money. That's why we're all, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And for different reasons, you know what I'm saying? So
it does feel like sometimes in our culture at the moment, people do have this stigma against folks who feel that way. You ever feel that way sometimes?
For sure. 100%.
Yeah, like they just kind of misread it as being something, a thing of greed, or something like that.
I completely understand.
That definitely exists, don't get me wrong. There's definitely greedy people out there, but there's just nothing wrong at all with wanting to make as much money as you possibly can in an ethical way, especially. And because people generally, it's because, like we said earlier, like there's such a small line between having all your things covered, having a little extra money, and then having a ton of money that you just don't know what to do with. So, then you can go and help people in the ways that you see fit. And the more people that can do that, the more people that we can just all kind of, that's how people get lifted up. Generally not by government or whatever else,
So my argument against, like, that makes me not feel bad about people that have that against people that want to make money, because when I grew up, we didn't have much, right? And then I had kids at a young age. I was 22 and I had my first kid. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way in hell my kids are growing up how I grew up. I didn't care what I had to do at that point in my life. I was working my ass off to try to make money at that. I didn't care about the passion, right? That was gone. Now I'm older and I understand what life's about, right? So it can be both in your lifetime, obviously. At that point, bro, 22 to 28, I'm money driven, bro. That's all I'm trying to do, because I'm trying to provide for my family, because I don't want my kids to have to worry about, am I going to get a birthday present, or am I going to get a Christmas, am I going to eat? So that's on my mind. But now I'm older and I can see, like, now I got the passion. For, you know what I mean?
Sometimes you gotta toggle it. Like I feel like sometimes you gotta kind of toggle the passion radar off for a little bit because it can be distracting.
For
you
sure.
know? And it can be like a guilty pleasure sometimes.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of cut it off, and
For sure,
sometimes that's just what it calls for. I mean, you don't have to, but if you don't, then you're gonna end up in a situation where you probably wouldn't make as much money as you could, and you are gonna be in those situations because
So true.
you know, time is money, and the more you got 2 hands and 2 feet, like there's always something to be made, you know. Like there's always some money to be made out there.
It's true, man.
As long as you're willing to go out and make it, it seems like. So yeah.
It sounds like something that we all have in common understanding that with passion and money, you go through your different phases, right? I think that a lot of people are not willing to accept that you have to go through those different phases, because if you don't, how do you grow?
Yeah.
How do you learn? How do you better yourself? But then you have to ask yourself, how many people are willing to do that? You know what I'm saying? You got a small percentage of people that are willing to look in the mirror saying, you know what, this wasn't working. I was wrong. Let me hold myself accountable. How do I do this? And even if you mess up that time, you go back. And what I always tell people, failure is never an option. You only fail if you stop.
And you don't learn from it.
You know?
That's the big part.
Yes, sir.
So have you ever read Failing Forward? John C. Maxwell, I think his name is. I think it's called Failing Forward.
That author name sounds familiar, very familiar.
But he talks about you have to fail forward. He wants people to fail. Failure is how you learn, right?
Yeah.
So it's going forward. So yeah, it's a good book. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't expect to fail, then
that means you never jumped.
You don't really expect to succeed, and you don't really expect to fail.
Yeah. You see that? Did you see that? Happen to see that post I made the other day about Mike Tyson on Facebook? You remember? Do you remember when Mike Tyson fought Michael Spinks? Remember that?
No, I don't remember.
You gotta think, I was born in '94.
I didn't catch it. I wasn't. I was 1991, so this was before my time too. Well, this fight was in 1988, I think it was, right? And at the time, Michael Spinks and Mike Tyson were undefeated. They both had over 30-0 records at the time.
Oh wow!
Mike Tyson had got 30-0 in 3 years. He'd been professional for only 3 years. He got his he's officially professional in 1985, and then by 1988 was when they fought. He had already had 3. He was the first to unify the 3 titles as a heavyweight, and had won over 30 fights with I think he was 34-0 with 30 knockouts. Only 4 of his fights were not. So this fight in 1988 between him and Spinks, they both came into this fight undefeated. Michael Spinks had been boxing for over 12 years. He was undefeated. He had an Olympic gold medal. He had 3 titles at that point, defended them, and moved up 3 weight classes. Middleweight, light heavyweight, moved up to heavyweight. Michael Spinks, up until that fight, had not even been knocked down in his professional career.
Wow.
Mike Tyson knocked him out in 91 seconds.
That might have been the fight I remember as a kid. I was at my aunt's house, and all the parents, all the adults got upset because they like, damn, we didn't pay all this money for pay-per-view, and the damn fight is over.
There was
the
a lot
first
of
round.
those Tyson, but it's so crazy to watch the build-up and then to understand that was the highest grossing fight at that time. It was like they grossed like $70 million on that fight. That was the highest at the time.
Yep.
And just to think that he had gone through his whole 12 years of his career, every fight, he never lost a fight. He pieced him up in the first round, halfway through the first round. So just as soon as you think that you can't get knocked out, he retired after that too. He was done. He got knocked out, and that was that's it, man. Like, and it's crazy too because Mike Tyson got knocked off his high horse eventually too. But he was pretty vocal about the fact that he wasn't mentally there. His mental was just as strong as the physical, if not stronger.
You know what the crazy part about Mike right now? He actually is there mentally, and now he's
a completely different person.
Oh, dude, I was listening to Joe Rogan. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. I listened to that episode, bro, and I'm like, I got a lot of respect.
I got a ton of respect for Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was like a pit bull that was raised very poorly.
And now he's wise.
It's incredible that he is just the way that he is, to be honest with you.
Oh, for
and
sure.
just was such an anomaly as an athlete. But that match to me is so funny. I watched the whole build up to it and everything. I was just going through ESPN classics. I watched the whole thing, you know, all the intros, everything, the build up. This guy had 5 inches longer reach. I mean, everything just, it was so crazy.
Yeah,
And
look that up.
91 seconds, man. 91 seconds.
And a round of boxing is 2 minutes.
Done. Yeah, I think
So
it's 2 or 3. I think.
So you know what we did?
Yeah, he talked about the first round. At the end, he I forget the guy's name, Larry Woodrich, I think, his interview with Mike Tyson. He said, "Mike, do you have any premonition this would end this quickly?" Mike says, "Well, my trainer told me before I left that he bet both of our purses and I'd knock him out in the first round. So I came out and knocked him out in the first round." That's number 35.
That's
just
funny,
like
dude.
that, man. Just incredible.
That is crazy.
It just goes to show you, man. Just like somebody was leaving that fight undefeated. You know what I mean? That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta take that L and like get up and go back. Even the best sometimes.
Wow.
Gotta just take the L and move on, man. Learn from it. He made a crucial mistake when he got knocked down for the first time because he'd never been knocked down.
No.
In 12 years, he'd never even been knocked down. And Mike caught him in the gut. And he kind of fell on his knee. He kind of got up, and you can look and see he looked like he was okay, but I think he was stressed that he just got knocked down.
No,
so as
his
soon as the ref
confidence
let him
was
up,
knocked out.
he charged after Mike. He charged and threw a right and leaned into it. And as soon as he leaned, Mike hit him with a left and an uppercut. And that's that iconic image. If you ever see Mike is standing kind of over him like this, basically, and the guy's laying just flat on the ground. That's where that image came from. Is that fight because he just stand over. People couldn't believe it. You know, it's like
That is crazy.
he's falling into the ropes as he goes to get up. Guy's never even been knocked down before. So that's that story kills me. I used to sit in retail and just watch Mike Tyson fight compilations when we didn't have any customers. You know, keep me hyped up.
I think Mike Tyson might be the perfect example of what an entrepreneur or what a warrior is. You grow up rough, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have some type of letdowns when you're a kid, and then you get to the point to where you're mentally mature enough to make your own decisions, and you work your ass off to get where you at.
Yeah.
But when you get there, sometimes you may not realize when you get up there may be 10 other things to knock your ass back down. I feel like Mike got knocked back down, and like you said, years later, he back up there and in a whole nother space.
Yeah.
And now it's impossible for him to get knocked back down because he
there.
understands what it takes to, even if you get knocked down, to get right back
what
up.
it takes to get back up.
No,
Exactly, bro.
It's a strong guy.
That's exactly
for
it,
sure.
man. Yeah.
For sure. He's got a podcast too. It's actually pretty funny.
He does have a podcast.
I haven't heard much.
He deals with a lot of the.
There's a lot of celebrities and.
It's Brandon Marshall, who used to be the prime receiver in the NFL. I believe him, Antonio Brown.
AB's in it too.
Yeah, I think he's on an episode there, and they talk about mental health.
Yeah.
Within, I think Chad Ochocinco in there, so they talk about within mental health within just sports in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta think the pressure. You got millions of people watching, and then you got a whole damn team. And your whole fan base counting on you, and
you get beat up literally.
Literally.
Yeah. So, dude, in Joe Rogan's podcast, he was talking about they don't teach college kids in school that know they're going to be famous how to manage their money, manage their funds, manage their emotions.
Yeah.
And he was talking about in college there should be a class, legit class on just what it's going to be like in the press.
Yeah.
And there's not, bro.
Honestly,
they just go 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
They should be paying them. They should be looking after them. Like, you know,
sure.
if you go to a university, typically in your tuition you get therapy covered for a certain amount. You know, like you can just go to a therapist and that sort of thing. So
for sure,
for the athletes and stuff, I've always honestly thought it was just pretty criminal that they don't really pay them in the first place. And even if they didn't do that, just to look out for them in some way, you know, for when they get poached or whatever, picked up by the bigger leagues, like somebody's got to look out for them because it's just like anything, you know, when you see kids get picked up in arts and things like that, whether it's film or music or whatever else. A lot of them have a really hard time because
it's a whole different lifestyle.
I'd have a hard time if I had millions of dollars tomorrow. Somebody have to look out for me. Like, you know what I mean?
It's crazy.
I like to think everything would just be like sunshine and flowers, but like I would definitely need some help with that too.
So the pastor at my old church up in Lake Odessa that we used to go to, called the Crossing, he asked everybody a question. I was like, what would you guys do if you won the lottery today? And like going through the room and everybody's like, oh, this. And then it got to him and he was like, I would donate it all. I don't want any of it. And he was like, I don't want money coming from people that are literally throwing away their lives to try to win this lottery. He was like, I don't want that kind of money. And then he was like, I would rather that kind of money to go in the hands of God and he can do whatever he wants with it. Because then he was like, and if I was to get it, it would be so tempting. Too many temptations if I got that kind of money. I was like, man, who else would do that? You know what I'm saying?
That's a strong soul.
Yeah.
So I respect that, man. Like,
I think that may go. I know earlier we also talked about being intentional. I think he wanted to be very intentional on how he received it, who he received it from, and how it's going to affect everybody else. I want to talk about intention a little bit, just because in my business, in my personal life, in my relationship, I try to really make everything super intentional. What I eat, what I think, what I'm doing, who I'm with, those different things. And I think a lot of people take those things for granted just because a lot of people don't have that self-management of, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, you know what, I got to do something a little bit different here and different things like that. I know we talked about being super intentional with different posts, making sure that if it's summer month, why are we going to talk about anything during the winter? It's summer. Let's be super intentional. Let's talk about those maintenance siding things and different things like that. Do you guys have any personal intentional goals in mind to where you know that it has to be intentional because it just won't work anyway? And the only reason I mention that to you is because, like I said, walking into the year 2022, and especially when I left my 9-to-5 2 years ago, I said from here I had to be intentional, because my life before that, I would say probably 60 to 70% of it wasn't intentional, and the other, I'm just like, damn, what the hell am I doing here? Why did I do this? And it's like I woke up the next day like, you probably shouldn't do that again. And not necessarily because it was a bad thing, just because it wasn't a purpose. It wasn't meaningful. I didn't really mean to be there. I was just there just because of my, scenario or whatever, bro. And I think being intentional as a business owner, and more so as a man, is very important, because I think when you're more intentional, you're able to make better decisions. And obviously when you're able to make better decisions, life is 10 times easier. I was telling, guys, I forgot Andrew earlier when he was here. I said I'm an 80-20 guy. I make 80% right decisions. The other 20% I just don't give a damn about, because that 20% is about what I can't control anyway, and different things like that. So, do you guys have any intentional goals, whether if it's business related, personal, if it's health related, or anything like that? Just for the viewers to get a share.
I think you personally have to have intentionality in every aspect, like you, for sure. Like I have intention in my work and my job. Like if I don't go out and do events and meet people, I'm not gonna succeed as in my mind in a business at all. So I think you're right. You have to be intentional in everything you do, and a father, and with your kids and your wife. You have to be certain things in your life to where, I always want my goal for my marriage to just get better. So what are some things I can come up with? Like the other day, I took her out on a date to Frederick Meyer Garden, right? So we've been married for 9 years. Like I have to be intentional of things that I do with that, because if I don't put it in there, if I don't put it in my mind, it's not gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Another big thing with work-wise intentionality, I have to put stuff in my calendar now. I'm older. And if I don't put something in my calendar and I'm intentional about doing that, it's not going to happen. And it's burned me before. If I say somebody like, hey, we'll get together this day, and I don't put it in my calendar, and I don't show up, how bad does that look on a business? You know what I'm saying?
That's my worst nightmare.
But intentionality's, it's funny you say that, because my sister-in-law has a podcast that she runs called Intentional Mindset.
Oh, wow.
So she's been coaching my wife and I for a long time, doing the disc models and doing all these different things.
Oh,
So
wow.
I honestly, for most people, don't know about that stuff. We have such
that disc stuff is deep.
Yeah.
Man.
So she's throwing stuff like that at us all the time about being. So she just bought me a new planner, and it says goal. Oh shit, what's the name of it? Start goal or something goal, but. I'm like, and I'm not a big writer. I like to listen and podcast, but I usually don't write stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like gratitude journal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So she bought me this goal thing. And I'm like, you know what? Let's check this out. So I start reading through the pages, and like on the first page, it actually gives you bullet points on like, okay, where were you 5 years ago? And you write it down. And now where are you now? And then it says, what did you have to do to get to this point? You write it down. And then what are some things that you had to give up? What are some things you gained? And like doing that, bro, you're like, holy shit, man! Like,
yeah,
we were here and now we're here, and like we're continuing to like you can just see your life kind of just unfold, but it's all about being intentional about it. You have to. I think if you don't have intentionality in your life and you don't want to grow as a person spiritually, friends and stuff, that's what I believe we're here for, is to connecting with people, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're here. That's why we're on this earth.
Agreed.
So if you don't have that, that's when people just kind of get depressed and anxiety and popping pills and using substance to take care of the problems because they don't have that drive. They don't have the intentionality in life to
completely agree.
So write your own story, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody can write their own story.
Yeah, I have to. You just have to find where that line is too for you and what it is that it is. That's what's been difficult for me in regards to like truly some of the like I can't think of much other than outside of music, like good music that really stimulates me in a way that nothing else does. And so that's how I know that if I spend the more time I spend doing that, the more I'm gonna have. There's just certain things that everybody is drawn to like that. That you find in life that you just know. The more you can gravitate towards those things responsibly and in a balanced way and in a way that can support you otherwise, then the happier you'll be. You know, and I think people that usually aren't terribly happy, or like you said, just haven't necessarily found that, or if they have found it, they haven't spent enough time trying to figure out how they can get more of it in their life in a way that's that can either pay the bills or can be. They can fit it in next to paying the bills or something else.
So let me ask you guys a question with that aspect of like the way you live your life, because I'm a trust first guy.
Yes,
really, like I'm gonna trust you as a person until something happens. So I know there's a balance in that, but I have a feeling I have a pretty good EI on people. I can kind of read what they're about a little bit, so I can have that. But do you agree with that part? Like trust. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people are so reserved. Like, I don't know you, don't come by me, don't talk to me, don't look at me, right? Most people when we go around restaurants and stuff, I don't have a problem saying, hey man, how you doing? Like, what's up? Like, and so many people are against that. So what's your guys' take on that?
It's funny that you mentioned that, bro. So when I walked into the gym this morning, Kaylee and Jen was talking about how the world today portrays you not to be able to trust anybody with the media shit, with social media. I mean, just anything. They put a platform that you shouldn't trust people. When I heard that, I was going there with my little earbuds in, so I don't really hear the whole conversation. I was like, they're absolutely damn right, and that's why people can't really get along. That's why the world is kind of where it's at right now.
It is
simply because we can't trust each other based on the platforms that we're seeing. But that go back to how important what you put in your brain, what you see, what you're feeding yourself, what you're experiencing. Boundaries, all of those different things. And I was telling Andrew earlier that life is literally about energy. It's about what you put out, you're going to receive back in, and everything like that. So when you are able to put trust in other people, you're going to get majority of that back. And the people that you can't trust, it's kind of their loss instead of yours and different things like that. But I agree with you 110%, man, on being able to trust people. That wasn't nothing I would say my environment taught me at first growing up. It wasn't that you distrust people, but I remember an incident, my grandmother, it was an older lady, she had to be about 30, 40 years old, come on my grandmother's porch and ask for like 30, 40 bucks. I ain't never seen this damn woman day in my life, but my grandmother knew her in the neighborhood. And at this time, I'm like 10 years old, but I ended up finding out this lady was on drugs. She told my grandmother she was sick and she needed to go pick up some medication. She said, Miss Marsha, I'll come back and pay you in a week. My grandmother was the type of woman, you told her you was coming back that day, she leave her whole damn front door open with the porch door locked. So right when you come up, she could know that you coming. That lady never came, and I remember how pissed and disappointed my grandmother was. But that go back, you know, just kind of that trust thing and stuff like that. But I think with a lot of people, especially with experiences, it's easy to lose it. Mm-hmm. It's like, damn, if I can't trust you, I can't trust you, and I can't trust them. And that's not cool because everybody is different. Mm-hmm. Just because one person betrayed you don't mean the next is. But once again, it's all mental. It's about what you experience, and what you experience is put in your mind, and your mind becomes your reality. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a bad and a good thing, because you have to use your past experiences. But go ahead, Jay.
So on that, the problem with today is it's not their experience.
No.
It's what they're watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
So it's like, if we didn't have media, bro, everybody would be 100% fine.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They're letting other people's experiences dictate how they feel about people.
It's a big. I feel it's a big part of. It's due large in part to people forgetting about individual identities and really putting their group identities in front of their individual identities, whatever that may be, whether that's religious, whether that's race, whether that's gender, whatever that is. It's usually that seems to be where the media kind of takes things, is to try to kind of segment, divide and conquer, right? It's an age-old thing. So the more divided we are, and it's like, how do you divide people? Well, you divide people by putting them into groups, and instead of, the more you do that, the more we look at each other as just kind of group members as opposed to just individuals, you know, and it's easy for anybody to fall into that trap. It's because I think humans have been along for a long time, so that's an age-old kind of tribalism. It's easy to kind of grab onto that, you know, so.
Dude, it's funny you said that. On my way here, no joke, I'm listening to Joe Rogan and Snoop Dogg podcast. And they're talking about back in the 90s with the East Coast, West Coast rival, right? And that was my area. I grew up with Tupac and Biggie. Those were my two favorite rappers, right? So it's like, to see, and Snoop was saying, look, back in the 90s, it was the media coming out saying, like, what side you going with, the east side or the west side? And it was putting in everybody's brains about, and then after about 10 years of violence and people getting killed and stuff like that, they finally came together. Right now, he's like, there is no beef between us, because they figured it out. They all got into a room together and they said, we don't hate each other, we all love each other, we love what we're doing.
Same goals.
Right, and now Snoop is saying, now there is no East-West Coast, there's, you know?
You don't hear about that at all.
You don't hear about none of that, bro. Nobody wants to put that on TV. Like, Martha Stewart's working with Snoop Dogg. Can you imagine 10 years ago if Martha Stewart said, my next guest, come on out, Snoop. How many people would it really?
That stuff's not good for business either, right? I mean, they're all out to make money, so the more y'all can work together, the more money everybody's gonna make. The more we separate each other, the more you're just gonna be distracted from what you're really after, which is making some damn money, getting more popular, you know, getting more plays, whatever.
Because Snoop was like, even with like Democrats and Republicans, right? He's like, that was never the way it is now. And it's the media separating us in that aspect of it. And he was like, I think it's gonna be like, okay, later on, I pray to God he's right, but like,
I have my doubts.
and in my mind, I'm like, how?
It's gonna be a while, man.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna talk politics, but I feel like one extreme or the other is not healthy.
No extremes are good.
Either extreme's not healthy.
No,
everybody's gotta be right.
The truth is always somewhere in the middle.
It is
for sure.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
And you say in the middle as far as balance, proving that everything and everyone needs some form of balance. So without balance,
100%,
you tip the hell over. You know what I'm saying? If I'm 150 pounds on my right side, but my left side only 50, I ain't gonna be able to hold up.
You don't really want the pendulum to swing so damn hard it like comes out the side of the clock, you know? Like, it's just not good.
It's true.
So I think the things that we're talking about, the world knows. What makes it damn near impossible for people to realize it, but to not do anything? And that's something that really, really bothers me, because my entire life, I done seen people see things, hear things, notice them, but there's no action behind it. And not saying that every action need a reaction, but you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure you guys, once again, this is Under the Rug podcast. We talk about things that get swept under the rug. I done seen a lot of things get swept under the rug as a home inspector, as a man, and I'm just like, damn, how did you let that happen? Or how do you know it happened, know it's wrong, but you still don't do anything about it? And I try not to think of it too much because I try not to let negative things really go in my head or bother me or whatever, try to stay positive as possible. But it's some things I just don't get, but I don't get it because I try not to get it because some stuff is just like, you know what, that don't really make too much sense.
I think it's like those people that don't do stuff at the time, I think it's fear-based. I honestly think it's fear-based, man. It's, in my mind, it has to be, because at that point in their mind, they're thinking, okay, if I challenge this person, and first of all, it may cause confrontation. Most people don't like confrontation, right?
I hate confrontation.
So they have that fear of confrontation, right? That's the number one thing. It really is. Like, I don't want to approach this person and tell them to pick up their trash that you just threw on the ground, because it's gonna be confrontation. And then
in my heart, I feel like I do, but in my mind, it's
fear is holding those people back. I feel like that's the biggest driver. I think, and just coming outside your shell, man. Like Steve I watched a little clip of him and said the best. Like, most people won't jump. Most people will never take that leap and jump and trust what they want to do and their instincts, and they just hold themselves back. And I think that's it, man. I think they're just...
That's true.
Where do you think that fear come from?
Society, bro. Like...
A little bit. Sometimes it's personal situations too. You know, people, if you had parents or a brother or sister or something around
it's your group.
So, you know, sometimes people have, when they grow up, I assume, they have reactions. People are reactive around them when they speak up or do certain things. So especially when you're younger, that kind of makes you not, as an adult, really want to do it, because you just become afraid of people. And the only way to really get out of it is just the exposure of actually doing it and learning that whatever you think is going to happen as a result of it, it's not really going to go that way. You know what I mean? Because I think that's like social anxieties like that, just general anxieties, kind of just stems from things like that, I think.
But man, there's like... So my kid's 17, right? And he's in high school, and he's talking to me about a couple of his girlfriends. And like one girl broke up because of how much anxiety she had. Like, I don't remember that for me being in high school, about like everybody being so depressed and so full of anxiety.
To be honest with you.
It is, and it's like it's because now, as a kid, you can look up and you know what's going on in Ukraine and China and the terror. You know world news on your palm of your hand, bro. Yeah. I knew what was going on in my neighborhood. Like, oh, dang, Billy broke his leg. You know what I mean? So that's how I grew up. So I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 17. So it's like, I think that's it, man.
It is. There's actually even some stuff coming out. Finally, some studies coming out about it. It especially seems to affect teenage girls, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, a lot of the content that's going to be served to them and that they're going to be consuming based on just the algorithms and things, stuff like Instagram. It's basically, you spend all day long, even if it's, imagine just a couple hours a day of seeing life as you wish it was, and then, you know, you're spending all that time kind of looking but never acting, because you're literally taking that time away, and so you're just kind of seeing that all the time, and it's also kind of flooded with things that kind of make younger people question even their own identities and things like that, and it's just confusing. There's a lot of confusing stuff out there. It's just kind of devastating. I think it's having a real effect on kids and stuff, because it's so distracting, and just people think I'm kidding. I can't mess with TikTok. Like, I can't get on it and flip through it. It gives me such an anxiety in my chest. Anytime somebody kind of puts it in front of me, or anytime I've tried in the past to flip through it, I just feel the damage that it must be doing in my brain, and I'm like, I can't do this. It's so in your face, and just like...
And then that brings you back to full circle, right, on your intentionality. So like in my mind, in my business, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get on Facebook, and I'm gonna get on a couple posts I need to say like this, training here, training there, and then I'm done. I'm not like anymore. I used to. Trust me, I was that. I was like, get caught in that rabbit hole. And then it takes you to realize, like, oh shit, I just wasted an hour of my life just looking at stupid ass video.
You had five or 6 days a week, and you just wasted the whole work day
Yeah,
on
so now I was
stupid
like,
ass
okay,
Facebook.
instead of this, I'm gonna try to do something that's,
Yeah.
make my family better, or me better, So
Yeah, and it just all of a sudden you just kind of, sometimes it gets so bad you're just like, what am I doing right here?
exactly,
Like, it's
bro.
making me anxious, or it's making me irritated, like the stuff I've seen, and it's not productive. Like, what am I even doing here? How did I get here?
Yeah.
I had an empty moment in my brain, and I just kind of naturally pick up my phone and look at it. Like, we're all kind of susceptible to it, but it's like, if I could just replace that with almost anything of production, like anything, it would be better. Yeah, literally. Yeah. Anytime I have a second, if I just pick up the dumbbell and lift, it would be better than if I hop on the stupid Facebook or something. Other than for business, and lately I've even been kind of feeling like I hate the fact that business is so wrapped into it.
It is.
I mean, from a business perspective, it was brilliant for them to have that tie-in. Now it literally feels like you have to have it, but like, I don't have an issue with the Google thing. Google is definitely more utility.
No.
We appreciate Google.
No.
We like the utility of Google and everything. Google doesn't have really a social element to it anymore. You know what I mean? So that's why we're trying to focus a little bit more on that, kind of almost get off that. We had a awful experience with Facebook ad people. Absolutely terrible. We probably spent not a ton. I understand they got millions of dollars in advertisement money flowing through there a day. So we're small fish. I understand that, but I don't know. I think a matter of how you treat your small fish is pretty representative of the whole thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you wouldn't believe it, man. We had some ads running for a while, and then like they somebody somehow hacked the ad account. We checked both of our accounts. Both of our individual accounts were not hacked particularly. So
it was just a business.
Just the ad account. All of a sudden, we got these spam ads running and charging the ad
like
account.
a limo ad.
It was the weirdest thing ever.
Weird.
Weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. And we I think we're made whole. You got the money back.
Yeah.
Everything was okay. But like, you would not believe, I must have had, I'm not exaggerating, 20 plus customer service reps email me, and each time the email was different, but what it basically said was, we don't know. We have no idea what happened here. And at one point, they had actually asked me for more information, and I said, I don't have any more information. Like, that's what we're looking to you for. We're trying to figure out how this happened. I'm like, and I understand you're just the messenger here, but I gotta tell you, I'm concerned that you're asking me for more information right now. I'm worried. I feel like we don't necessarily want to spend any more money on the platform if you can't give me a single thing. You're asking me to be the investigator. Like, I don't know, give me the login. I don't know.
And I bet you guys haven't, right?
Yeah,
No,
to
we
this
haven't.
day,
That
no,
was
we
back
haven't.
in November, December-ish, and we haven't been back on that platform.
We just moved our attention elsewhere on that one. So I mean, I think it served its purpose, and we got something out of it. And so all things at the right time. Maybe that was the universe just kind of telling us to move on from Facebook ads and do something else, But that was very, very strange, man. That was weird.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Josh, I want to ask you a personal thing. So I want to share this with everybody. I know Corbin already know. So I just got engaged 2 weeks ago. So I'm jumping into a new chapter, obviously of manhood, of being a husband, of being a father in these different roles. And I remember my brother asked me, then my uncle asked me, are you ready, or are you sure you want to do these things? And I told him, I said, I'm more than sure. And I said, the beauty of it is that I'm okay, and I accept it, that I have to be this man that I need to be for a bigger purpose to be.
That's the whole point, right?
To an extent. I said, I'm willing to do that, and it's genuine. But go ahead, man.
What if I tell you, you are already that man? You are already that person. You don't have to become a better, bigger person. You're already that person, bro.
Yes, sir.
For sure.
You're not going to change. There's no magic. Just because they say I do doesn't change who you are as a person. You're already that person.
Now you just kind of got that obligation to keep it that way.
Keep it that way. Keep it going. Keep striving. Keep working. You're already that person, bro.
That kind of seems like that's the whole point, the marriage.
I appreciate that, bro.
I would agree 100%. But that's kind of I think that's kind of. It does seem like, for sure, in our culture, that the idea and the understanding and the appreciation of the idea of marriage has been completely lost for the most part. But, like, you know what I mean? Every now and then you see people like him and Monique that, like, it's like, yes, like they're doing it for the right reasons, man, and it's awesome. It's great. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much seems like the whole point of it is to maintain that excellence in some sense. Always working towards something together in a union.
And dude, I feel like that's why a lot of marriages fail, because they get married, either one person's not their true selves, right? It is. One person's not the true, and then when you get married, you become your true self. We're married, we're stuck together, so I'm going to become who I am, right? If you two are your true selves as of right now, it's cool. It's like my wife and I, bro, when it was my second marriage, right?
Yes, sir.
First one I messed up, I knew like I changed. I'm not the same person. I changed, right?
Yep.
And now I know like this is myself. And now my wife, think about it this way, bro. I was married, I had 2 kids at the time, and my wife, 3 kids at the time, and my wife now comes into my life, and I have a 4 and a 5 and like a 6-year-old, right? And she's willing to come in and basically take over with me, like come in as a single dad.
That's deep, man.
Yeah, so it's like, but it was who I was, and I remember, dude, the 3rd date we went on, and she was like, "I'm waiting for you to be somebody else." At that, really, like you're too nice. You're being too nice, and you're being like, and I was like, "This is who I am. Like, take it or leave it. This is what I got to offer. I got kids. I'm divorced.
It's not gonna get better. It's not gonna get worse.
So you know what I'm saying? So like, for me, learning like, oh man, I can be myself, and I can be who I am around somebody, and she can be who she is, and that's what really makes. And trust me, marriage is difficult. It's hard. There's compromises, and but that's every relationship, even friends, But it's just being yourself right now and continue to have your strive and your goals, bro. Like that's it.
With that commitment.
It's funny you mention that about being yourself, because I remember I think our therapist had asked us how did we meet and all of this stuff, and I told her the biggest thing is, as a kid, I never really had a type. Obviously, I like attractive women. I mean, you like whoever you're attracted to. But I never had a specific type. I just wanted a woman to be herself and allow me to decide whether if I'm okay with the person you are to continue moving forward in our relationship. And I told Monique that, and I mean, it was just a wonderful feeling, bro. Just because you meet a lot of people who are not willing to be themselves. If they're scared to be themselves, if they trying to play games or whatever, man. So to meet or interact with somebody that genuine and know that can't really ask for anything more or anything less, man. And I remember, I forgot who I was having this conversation with. I was at my uncle's house, and his wife mentioned you saw a lot of men get in relationships, or people in general, men and women, and thinking there's more out there, but knowing once you find something good. And it ain't really no better option than good, because you're never gonna get to great because she got her challenges and you got your challenges, right? And the point is, going back to that 80-20 rule, can I get 80% of what I need and that other 20% just to be like, you know what, I'll accept those 20% of flaws because you're giving me 80% of your effort, and I can't ask for no more than that. So.
And another thing on that too is it's like you're in charge of your own happiness. You know what I'm saying? For real.
Yes.
Like, I shouldn't
Say that again, bro.
I said, you're in charge of your own happiness.
A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people allow people and experiences to affect that.
Yep.
And, man, I love that
I
you
used
brought
to
that
tell
up.
my staff every day when they would come in, and I could when I ran stores and stuff, I could see there in the bed and I was like, hey, right now, you can make that decision in your mind to flip and have a great day. For real. It's your decision. At that point in your life, and I tell it to my son now, my 5-year-old, when he's like getting at me, I'm like, all right, reset. You have a decision, A or B. You can continue to cry and be mad and upset and angry, or we can go have some fun. And what do you want to do? And then most of the time, he's like, I want to go have some fun. And just trying to train that mindset of you can change your day whenever you want, man. You can get into a car accident on the way home and still try to go home, pray about it. I'm okay, I'm good. Car's messed up, but I'm all right. You know what I mean? So it's all about mindset. You're right. Mindset, intention. You're right. It's like, but it's like that. It's just being able to teach people how to manage that. But that doesn't come easy. It comes with some experiences for sure.
Yeah. As a home inspector, I necessarily don't encourage people how to manage their lives, but at least to manage their houses for the time being. I wonder sometimes as a home inspector, all the information and tips I give, how many of that information my clients use. And that might be something we can create, bro. I'm not sure if my clients would be willing to survey, okay, we found this on your inspection report. How many of these things did you actually get fixed? And then from there, we can lay out percentage. Like, did you know 30% of homeowners that can get an inspection don't get the proper shit done around their house? I'm just curious to know, because obviously it's not likely I'm going to be the guy to inspect that house they bought when they sell it. That's very unlikely. However, the longer we in this game, the more it may happen. But that's just some information I'm just curious to know, because I get a lot of homeowners that come, they get super excited. Like my clients today, they were first-time home buyers. They were there the entire time with me, and it was just super enthused. And I'm curious to know, I'm like, how much of this stuff are you truly going to get done and different things like that? I know we talked about incorporating some different things to really hold homeowners accountable.
And that'd be huge when you start teaching classes to have that stat. Hey, like,
that's true.
This is a percentage of people that don't realize this. So as agents, you're training the agents on it, right? And then they're going to tell it to their customers, like, hey, this is like the number one thing that inspectors say to fix that you don't fix, or do that they don't do. Sure, man.
And in CE classes, because me and Corbin always talked about that, how, because when Corbin had his real estate license, you have to take your CE. And he was like, Brian, it's the way you can do, but I don't know yet. And then when I met you, you mentioned it, I'm like, damn, Corbin was just talking about that. So, man, I want to thank you again, bro. That was 2 weeks ago. It was at a golf course, northeast side of town. We had the opportunity to present and talk, man. You had Matt Muscat, Trash Stone, and everything was there. It was a room, probably solid 20, 30
people there.
That's about what they usually are.
Nice ass venue, man. And then at that time I wasn't engaged, but I was like, damn, this would look like a damn nice wedding or something like that. But no, super, super dope, man. Before we go into our under the rug moment, do you have any personal advice, and for yourself as well, Corbin? Anybody that wants to be in your shoes, in your field, work-wise, do you have any advice for anybody that aspires to be where you are professionally?
Tough, because in my profession, like, you don't know about it. It's a hidden profession. It really is.
Dude,
like title insurance. Nobody, not even agents, typically know exactly what title insurance is. So even for myself, like, I fell into it because my best friend Joe, he started working on the lakeshore because he knew the VP on the lakeshore. He went to school with their daughter, and he was like, yeah, they're interviewing Grand Rapids, and that's how I fell into it, bro. So it's really tough, because when you go to school, all through high school, middle school, college, they don't even mention who we are. So it's tough that...
No, I had no idea. I still don't...
but if there's somebody out there that literally has the niche and I would say just start at the basic, man. Learn title insurance, the commitment and everything that goes in it, because I'm a little over 2 years in, and I swear, you guys, I learn so much every day, because every deal's different. Every house is different. For instance, like, some deeds you got to go back to the 1920s where it was a handshake. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's things like that you still see that people don't realize. You know what I mean? It's, nowadays it's like a big stack of papers you sign. Back in the day, it was like four documents.
Right.
And if it's that kind of a sale, I've never seen that before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's something that pops up. And then with the fraud, man, I would say learn all the new ways a fraud happens just to protect yourself and your company. Because that would be a big one now with the cyber stuff, man. That's a pretty big deal. Wow. So, but that's one thing that I love about our company, is that we have our own internal network. We don't outsource to anybody. So, because there's some pretty big title companies in the area that were using a certain server, and that server got hacked, and they couldn't do closings for like 2 days. Yeah, so we were getting a lot of phone calls. Can you handle our side? Can you handle our side? Because but
that's bad news.
So
bad news.
Yeah, that's why it's good to have a security platform in place for that part of it, man.
Big time.
How about for yourself, Corbin?
For me, I would say, man, I'm an odd one. I have a very strange skill set. So speaking specifically in sense of like web development and technology and things like that, I think the best thing you can do is spend time around it, because I have spent pretty much my whole life in front of a computer, and basically when it comes to say web stuff, for instance, the best thing that you can do is have honestly, I feel get the smallest amount of information and bookwork possible, and then just tackle a project.
Mm-hmm.
It's just from doing that you learn pretty much when it comes to that sort of thing. You just basically brute force your way into it, and for me, anyways, that's always been the quickest way to learn because it's low risk. You know, it's not like you're wrenching on your car when you're messing with like a website, especially if it's not one that you're making as a professional. You know, as you're doing it as a job or something like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you screw it up. You can do whatever you want with it. It's just a blank canvas. So, just kind of learning how those things go, and then kind of finding people, and especially now with the internet, like I'm so blessed. I don't know what people did in the past, but I've always been able to find pretty much the answer for anything I've ever wanted as it pertains to that stuff online. There's a YouTube video or for everything with an expert behind it that makes a million other videos, you know, and so there's no end of stuff to learn. I'm really thankful that I didn't really go to school, to be honest with you, for this sort of thing, because it changes so fast that the only way to really stay with it is to just kind of keep up on it, do your own kind of projects, or, you know, just have enough keeping you busy that like you just kind of stay with it. But it's definitely I just have a very wide range. I've just always kind of been, just like I was saying earlier, I kind of have always gotten bored with things and just moved into new, like I feel like I've tapped out of something, just like I've learned enough, I'm gonna move on to the next thing, you know. So I'm gonna move on to the next thing. I'll do video, then I'll do some photo stuff, then I'll do some graphic design stuff, I wanna do some web stuff, you know, and then just to be able to put that all together. It's pretty rare usually to have somebody that does all of it. And sometimes you need somebody that has spent all their time only on one thing to take you further in a certain spot. But for me, I found it very beneficial to have a wide range of knowledge, because what most people seem to lack is the ability to communicate with those people that have specialties. We were talking a little bit about that when it comes to like programmers and stuff like that. Like normal people like we are in this room, and I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but normal people like we are, and then the people who are really like coding engineers, you know, we speak almost an entirely different language. And so to try to get those people sometimes to do what you need them to do, you almost just need somebody in the middle that has a little bit of a scope, maybe doesn't know all the you know, special ins and outs, but can be able to communicate between those people, because these people usually know exactly what they want, but they need a little bit of refining it before it comes out to these people, because they want everything very literally, very matter-of-factly, you know, and very organized in a sense. It's like, tell me where I'm going and how I'm doing it. I'm not the organizer. I'm not, you know what I mean? So it's definitely been beneficial to me. But that's all I would say. It's been pretty much just spending most of my time just doing a lot more action than reading or studying. That's for darn sure. Yeah, definitely.
I would say, especially with bringing Marcus on board, you know, with Mr. Collins starting his training, even me and Andrew today, the large part is focusing on the client. A lot of it's, well, I can't say because I don't know an abundance of inspectors, but from the things that I hear, a lot of inspectors just focus on the house.
Not the people.
Which, don't get me wrong, the house is the most damn important thing, because ain't no way the hell I can walk you through something if I don't understand this house. However, the client and the human being you serving is just as equivalent in regards to the importance as the house. So that social piece would be my big thing that I would really press on to anybody that think about being a home inspector, thinking about being a realtor, working at a title agency, being a really, you know, different type of things. And it's like, if you're not really good at those social skills, which some people are better or more, you know, excel at social skills than others, but it's like, if you're not, it's really hard to teach that. So know that you're not good at it, and don't get in the profession, because if you do, unfortunately, you're not gonna last long, because this is all self-service, you know, really being able to serve the public and everything like that. And I don't feel like that piece is talked about. Everybody talk about numbers, everybody talk about the issues, but not the actual person.
That's true.
Or whatever. So, like I said, going towards the end of the show. So right now we'll go over our under the rug moment. of the month. So I know our main maintenance thing for the month is right now spring cleaning time, right? It's technically, well, has summer started yet? I want to say summer is June, right?
Yeah, it's been weird, man.
This weather's been weird because typically in May, I can turn on all the air conditioners at home.
Yeah.
But it's below 65 degrees, I'm supposed to turn it on. Some damn days I get to houses in the morning, it's like 48 degrees.
It's
I'm like,
freezing.
damn, it's freezing out
Especially
here.
leaving the windows open.
Yeah. So saying those things, man, spring cleaning month, and the big thing right now is siding. Make sure you are able to power wash your house, do the necessary things, especially if you got those big ass trees, you got a lot of vegetation. A lot of that stuff bring moss, it bring dirt and interior and different things like that. So simple things like that. If you got a deck, power wash it, treat it, repaint it if need be, those different type of things.
That wood siding.
Yeah, wood siding, make sure you treat it properly and different things like that.
Does that happen more on the north side of the house?
As far as
the dirt.
it happens necessarily where trees are blocking the proper sunlight to absorb moisture. And the reason I say that is we're in Michigan. During the wintertime, it's cold as shit. But in the summertime, it's hot. And it's irritating because of that moisture and humidity in the air. So when you get moisture and humidity after transitioning from a cold ass winter with all of that water, and you don't get that proper sunlight to absorb that moisture, moss is going to continue to appear. And at first you see a little bit. And then next season, you say, damn, I'll get to it next year. And then you come out and then you see a lot of it. And what people really don't know, moss is the opposite of mold. Or I won't say the opposite, but just like mold somewhat. Obviously, moss is green, mold is black. Mold lives inside, moss lives outside. Because it's a growing thing, you know what I'm saying? But it's all an environment issue. Like I told my client earlier, he had some mold in his attic because of ventilation concerns. Ventilation is the environment. You don't have any fresh airflow to go in and out that area and different things like that. So I strive all homeowners and landlords, because you got your landlords out there that unfortunately don't take care of their properties the proper way, is to truly maintain that property right now, doing those minor spring cleaning things. If it's inside, clean around your windowsills, getting your windows professionally clean, or if you feel like you can do it, cleaning your ductwork, stacks, different things like that to really prepare your house for the summer, to have a really good and nice time, different things like that. So that would be my big under the rug moment of the month and different things like that. I don't know if you guys have any under the rug moments that in regards to you guys' fields or what you guys may see in and out of houses. I know we kind of see a lot of the same stuff when you show up.
So for right now, I would say for our industry in general, the under the rug moment for to look out for is fraud, because fraud usually happens more during this time, holidays typically too, with Memorial Day coming. Anytime that a bank's closing the next day, wire fraud is up a lot. So, because they'll usually do it on a Friday, banks don't open until Tuesday.
How does something like that happen?
So that's where if we send, so it depends on if you get hacked or not. That's the big thing, because hackers will live in your computer for months, years until they put in like Google work, kind of like a Google alert. If they see anything with
watching,
hey, closing date or contract or purchase agreement, they'll see that. And then they'll act like you guys call the client, say, hey, here's the wire instructions, send it here, and then that client wire the fraudster the money, and then you call them the next day saying, hey, wire the money here, and they're like, oh, I already sent it.
What do you mean? You called yesterday.
Guys, that is way more prevalent than what people think.
Serious?
Yeah, I just sat in a class with Cindy Eminem for FNF she's out on the east side, but she teaches CE classes for us, and she was like, she gets them like a couple a week, like that are
a couple a week.
Yeah, like she knows of that are coming.
The thing is, I feel like maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I feel like anytime I ever get a scam call, it is somebody that is foreign. Do these tend to be people who are foreign, or do you know that?
I don't know that.
Because I feel to me like this is just if I'm in the middle of a real estate transaction, I've been dealing with you, I've been dealing with people at the Transnation office. If somebody calls me and they're not they're clearly not from around. I just feel like in this instance in particular, it would be a red flag for me. I would think that's odd. I don't know that I
do it for email too.
Yeah, that makes a little more sense. But the funny thing is about the fraudsters with emails, they usually have terrible grammar, terrible typos, terrible grammar. But if you're gonna do something like this, they just need one person with good grammar to write their templates, and then they can copy and paste them.
That's funny.
If you get an email that says send Bitcoin, that's not us. It's not us. We swear we don't want you to send it to our wallet. That's funny. Yeah.
They got something on Netflix. Mo was watching it one day. It was about a guy who lives probably in a room this big with a little bed. But when he posted pictures, he posted pictures on jets, yachts, and all of this stuff. And he basically was scamming women into making them feel sorry for him. And they would literally send him 40, 50 grand.
Oh my God.
And then he would make all of this money. They would think because he was like a rich guy, but he was really making money off of other women.
Oh my God.
And then other women, once they see the yachts, and he'll ask them like, "Hey, can you give me 100,000? You know what I'm saying? I'm not in the state right now. I'll be sure to write the money back to you." And the money never comes back. And this guy, he eventually got caught. I can't remember the exact name, but that was the first thing that came to me when you think about scamming, because it's very, it's around more than we would want it to be. For sure.
No, this wasn't really anything like that, but we had, can't remember if when we had talked I had spoken about this or not. Probably not, because I technically wasn't supposed to. I had a situation with one of my real estate sales that basically what had happened was the listing agent listed it. She put in the legal description on the listing instead of putting the legal description. She put POLP, which at the time I did not know meant part of larger parcel. I understand that now to mean that. But she put that in the legal description. She put tax ID, as you usually do, into the MLS. So when we wrote the offer, I took that tax ID, and because she put POLP and I didn't know what that meant or care, I knew it wasn't the legal description, so I just simply took the tax ID to look up the legal description of the property, and so I wrote that onto the purchase agreement. That's what we all signed, including the sellers and everybody involved. But it turned out that they were in the process of splitting that property, so what she meant to say was that this was pending a split, and so we don't have the legal description for it right now. It's basically, but instead of writing that, wrote POLP, which, to be fair, could have just meant that the part that she was selling was a part of a larger parcel. So all we know, this 3 acres could have been part of 6 acres. Turns out they're trying to get 1 acre off of 3 acres and then sell that. And so, long story short, this is what everybody signed. This is what went to title. This is what went to the lender. This is what got executed on from start to finish, and they wound up with 2 parcels because somehow the land still did get split. So they had their acre and then like 2.5 acres.
But they owned them both.
And they owned them both. So and nobody realizes this until 3 months after the transaction. All of a sudden, my buyer looks and
they're trying to sell it.
And they're like, "Well, no, he just looked because I don't even know why he looked." He's like, "Hey, I'm just curious. Looking on the county site, and it looks like we have 2 parcels. I'm not sure what's going on." And so him doing that apparently triggered the county maybe to contact the past seller, and they're going, no, we didn't want to sell that. And so it became a year and a half lawsuit that's now officially been settled at this point. And it was a terrible situation, and a very difficult one at that. I wasn't sure what level of responsibility to take. Quite frankly, I felt like it was low because
I agree with that. It's just miscommunication.
I didn't necessarily feel like 0 was the right answer, but I did feel like low, and I still kind of feel that way. This was a realtor who won't name any names, had just been around for a long time. Come to find out, she was in a deposition. I didn't actually get pulled into it, so I think they got what they needed before they pulled me into it. Come to find out that she was just kind of operating under not really doing anything. So she was one of those who was kind of getting everything signed and then pushing it off into other hands. And so it had kind of, so the deposition didn't go real well on that end. And then I think what ended up happening is everything ended up as it should be. The land got split, the acre went to who it should have, the 2.5, everything I think got squared away. Unfortunately, it ended up costing me money and everybody else involved. You know, I had we have E&O insurance obviously as realtors, but it was there's a deductible on that, so it still costs. I definitely didn't make anything on that sale. I'll tell you that much. You know, so yeah, so that was a huge bummer, and it was just it was like. Talk about under the rug. It's like, holy cow, who put this under the rug and where? Like, there was just, that's just all the more reason, I guess, to probably split a property before you sell it. I understand why there might be a reason to kind of try to rush it, whatever, but man, that's probably best to just split it, get your tax ID, get your legal description, and then sell what you intend to sell. Or be very, very clear about what exactly you intend to do and how you intend to do it, because honestly, up until the point of him finding out they had 2 parcels, we literally had no idea that they were splitting this land. We had no clue. That was never communicated. So that's why I feel like I really don't take much responsibility on that one, because it wasn't even clear to us that they were doing that. Otherwise, we might have looked at the title work a little bit closer. We might have looked at everything a little bit closer, so that when we looked at it, we noticed, oh, this is kind of indicating that maybe you didn't pick up on that note. You know, this was like my first or second deal, so this went through a lot of hands, you know, before anybody after closing was like, oh shoot, you know. And then they really tried to make it kind of like, I think you know, the selling side kind of realized what had happened. The agent kind of had some crazy suggestions, like, I think we can just do an addendum. Like, you know, this closed 3 months ago, right? We can put an addendum on a closed property. That's not how that works. If it was that easy, I would love to do that. We could just work that out, but that's not. And, you know, she's like, oh, well, don't worry about the appraisal. I'm like, what do you mean don't worry about the appraisal? The appraisal was done on all the land, so it is going to affect the value. She's like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you're telling me that you think that the bank's going to be okay with 2.5 less acres of land, and they're just going to call that the same price? You think that's what's going to happen? You think that the level of fraud and corruption is so high that that's just, everyone's just gonna check that off and we're just gonna move on? No, I don't think so. So no, that was definitely an under the rug moment, and that only just settled, I think, a month or so ago. That was just COVID complicated the hell out of it, obviously, you know, and everything else. So that was just that was a very sticky situation. Moral of the story is, no matter what, as a realtor, just double check everything. Just like when you're driving, just assume the person around is gonna do something stupid in front of you or next to you. Just assume it, because when they do, you'll be ready for it every time. You know, like when they cut you off, pull out in front of you. You'd be like, I knew you were going to do that.
I was always taught to not to drive for yourself, but to drive for others.
Defensive driving. Yeah, 100%.
Same way, bro.
100%. That's the place I don't trust anybody. You know, we talk about trusting people just in general.
You can ask my wife, my number one pet peeve is people that cannot drive.
Yeah, but the worst one is people that pull out in front of you, especially when there's nobody behind you. It seems personal. It feels personal. Like, you saw that there was nobody behind me, and you're going to pull out in front of me with this.
And your ass ain't even in the front. Like, come on,
man. Feels personal. I'm having a hard time not taking it personal, you know? Absolutely.
As we go to wrap up the show, Josh, like I said earlier, we pretty much wrap up with just going over some personal business goals. And then going over those next show. Do you have a specific goal that you're working on or that you want to accomplish, just to kind of share with the viewers?
Yeah, so my personal goal right now is, now that my wife's starting work, to getting to, because before she went into school, we had a routine, working out every day, eating healthy, and it kind of went to the wayside when we were so separate. But now our main goal as a couple and a family is to get back into that workout routine, eating a little better, and then filling out that journal, gratitude, and actually writing, because that's a challenge for me, man. for the professional goal, man, just continue to do what we're doing. We just opened up an office in Allegan yesterday, which is really cool. So we're going to thank you, man. We're continuing to grow and build our business, and just to keep honestly pressing the way we've been pressing. We've been gas pedal full on the past since January, man. Like as a company, we've done more events than I think any other company in our field, just to get our name and our faces out there. And I think it's really starting to take traction, man. It's a good feeling. So
you feel like that's kind of a rebound now that everything's kind of normal?
Mm-hmm. It is. You're right. Because like for instance, like I was just talking to a person at the other event. It's like lenders for the last like a year and a half have literally just showed up and made money, right? Because of the refinances. And now it's to the point where they're starting to try to come out more. But we've always had that mindset of, you know what? We're still going to continue to push and push and push throughout the whole time, because we want to be that face, you know? So, that's our main goal, man.
Yep. Awesome.
How about for yourself, Corbin? You got any goals?
Yeah, personal goals, I would say right now, for me, actually very much the same. Fitness, got to get back into I always try to kind of keep my diet in check, but that exercise bit is really important. You know, sometimes I think, if I just keep my diet right, no, it just doesn't. No, you got to have both. Yeah, you got to have both. It's important. And for a while, a couple of years ago, I was doing a lot more in terms of like weightlifting and strength stuff, and I really enjoy that, so I just need to get back to it. There's something kind of nice about that. I'm like kind of an instant gratification person in some sense, and there's a lot of bad ways to go about that, and there's a lot of good ways to go about that. I feel like weights and exercise is a good way to go about that. I kind of like doing, strength stuff. You kind of feel
feel good.
You feel the results of it. You feel like you're doing something. You know what I mean? And you can feel that usually right away. So, in some sense, the pain is good. You know,
it is good.
So you can definitely push it too hard, but I'm not that guy. So, got to get back to that. But on a business note, we were just talking before the show. We had some goals 2 episodes ago. Don't really remember what they were, because last episode we were a little quicker on that one. We had a little bit of a time crunch, so we kind of skipped over that. But using that as an opportunity to kind of push the reset button, because something we've been working on, and the theme of being intentional is just trying to, specifically for Chandler Inspections, work on Google presence and trying to get. We kind of did some study in the past month or two. Happened to look at one of our competitors and kind of affirm some things that we've been studying and kind of how they did things, and where just kind of what we've been doing from the start. Looking at what people are doing and kind of figuring out how can we do it better, basically.
Sure.
So
that's great.
And so I think we got a pretty good strategy in place to kind of execute on that. It's going to take some time. Realistically, I know it's going to take some time to get results on that, but I think we have a really solid plan on that. So we talked about before the show, kind of expressing that, and then over the next couple of months, we kind of have our timeline of what we're doing with that, and how we're going to kind of bolster our presence on there and everything. And so we'll keep everybody in the loop kind of on how that works and how we're doing and everything. We got some strategies behind just targeting certain areas and things like that. I won't give away too much of our secret, because we'll have to see if it works. But yeah, just trying to be intentional with that, because obviously, like we talked about earlier, Facebook is, I'm not feeling too great about it lately, and
I would pay more attention to Google.
For sure. When anytime anybody needs anything, they Google it for the most part. So that's where we want to be. Whether that's good or bad remains to be seen. But the fact of the matter is, that's where it's going on. So that's where we want to make sure to be higher up. It's funny. Andrew mentioned earlier. I think he must have Googled it, and it must have been the first one that came up, and that's super funny. Because we learned that one thing we learned is that apparently, if you have your business in the Google Business Manager, basically registered and everything as it should be, when you search businesses, generally speaking, you get kind of results that are under the map, and then sometimes you get local results in the map. And those are actually different, because the map results are actually based on the location of the device that you're searching from. Okay. So if you're in Rockford right now and you search
Home inspector
near me, because Chandler Inspections, technically the official address is in Rockford, we do happen to be the top of the Rockford results right now, and I think that's because it's location based and because we happen to have a good rapport so far with Google. So those two things really actually puts us right on the top right now. So he had mentioned that he I just heard him real quick mention that he had, I think, Googled it, and that's what they come up because he was in Rockford. So, we want to have that everywhere. We want to have that Grand Rapids, Ada, Forest Hills, you name it, whatever it is. We want to have that kind of move up, and so you can't claim that location necessarily everywhere in the maps. But then under the maps, obviously, you got the results there, and so we found out
because you can pop up as 2 or 3 or
exactly. And we kind of did some digging and found our competitors. One competitor was doing a decent job of actually. They seem to know what they're doing with that, and then the rest of them don't seem to have a clue. So I think if we implement the strategy that we're kind of thinking about, then I think that by
I think I know who that is.
Yeah, I was curious. We'll check after the show. I don't want to give them any more credit because they're competition. But nonetheless, I think that honestly, I think by the end of the year, if not sooner, I hope that we'll be just consistently at the top of the page for some of the general areas around here, or at least under that competitor of ours that's been doing it for a while. It seems like so.
That's good.
So that's kind of business goal I think for us, or at least for me, for us, just to kind of work on that, and a little bit for myself too. I think my goal for the last month might have had something to do with
the cleaning club.
Yeah, I think so. To be honest with you on that, I wouldn't say I've stopped, but I kind of hit pause because I have so much stuff going on. But what I was kind of thinking of was doing the same thing with that, and kind of letting that, just kind of focusing on Google with that, not really necessarily going out and soliciting too hard. Because I did talk to a couple people about it, and I didn't necessarily get the enthusiasm that I was getting before, so I thought, well, there's not really, it's the same thing when I kind of check the search results. There's not many people targeting specific areas like that and doing that with cleaning businesses, so I thought I should maybe try the same thing with that, to see if I could get that to rank in Google, and then see kind of what happens with that naturally. Just, and then take it as it comes. So I'll kind of be applying the same thing to that maybe and see how that goes. But
yeah, my goals will be extremely similar. We're kind of matching made in heaven with yours. That's the main thing. Really continue getting that big presence. But they go back to all being super intentional, like we said. If we're going to write something, write it the way we know it needs to be written directly. The same thing. If we're going to send something out that is effective, those different type of things. Personally, like I said, going to this new chapter in my life, continue being the man that I know I am and that I need to be. And then secondly, I typically work out 3 to 4 days out the week. Last week, I didn't work out at all. I used that as my honeymoon week because I got engaged the weekend before. And then this week, since last week threw me off, I only went this morning when I typically go Tuesday through Thursday, and like I said, sometimes Friday. So that's my biggest thing, which I feel like, and then my second thing, I guess, tomorrow's my birthday. So my plan is to enjoy my damn birthday weekend, really get away from my phone, enjoy some quality time with my lady, and just kind of go from there. Give me a little refresher, and come back Monday, hit the yard heavy. So I want to give a shout out because by the time this release, the event would already taken place. I'll actually be and you'll be there, but I'll be the commencement speaker for City High and Middle School graduation.
What?
At
Housman Field this upcoming Monday. So I'm like super honored. I'm super pleased. It'll be like my big first speech. I'm only imagining how many people are gonna be there just because I want to think of Housman Field. I'm like, damn, this field is huge. How many people are gonna show up? So
City High's the #1 school.
Man, #1 school, bro. And when I worked there, man, I met kids who I'm like, how the hell did you think about that? How do you know what I'm saying? Just intelligent all the way around. So I'm really looking forward to sending them off right with the best speech possible and different things like that. Really try to motivate them and inspire them to be the best people they can be.
Well,
so
good luck with that.
I appreciate it, man.
He's a good speaker, man. We went to one once and he told them kids to quiet down. I was like, he was so good about it though. He's like, all right, put the phones away, kind of thing. I was like,
that was the security officer.
Yeah, I wanted to stand up and clap. I was like, yes. Like, let them know.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's the old security officer in me, man. But as we wrap up, Josh, please let the people how they know they can contact you. Just let them know if it's your website, email, phone number, and everything.
Yep,
like
so phone number, if anybody wants to call me for any kind of title issues or reasons, 616-410-0515. Our main website is www.transmi.com. You can find pretty much everything you want to know about our company right on there. You can kind of read our story and see how we kind of became a family company from a corporation and kind of stuff like that. So everything you need is right on there, man. But I appreciate being here with you guys.
It's a pleasure to have you on, man.
Yeah, it's been great.
Fun,
it's been great, you guys.
Definitely.
And that is Rap Podcast.
Episode 6. All right.